Welcome, everybody. Ready to dive in? We've got a fascinating topic today, all about Marie Curie.
Oh, absolutely.
You sent in this article, right? The one reviewing the elements of Marie Curie by Dava Sobel. It really caught my eye.
Yeah, it's a good one. It makes you think about Curie in a whole new light.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what was for you? What sparked your interest in this whole Curie deep dive?
Tough to say exactly. I guess I was drawn in by that idea of uncovering the hidden stories.
It's like we all know the name Marie Curie, but how much do we really know about the person behind the icon? 2 Nobel Prizes, discovering polonium, radium. It's incredible.
Exactly. It's almost like she's become this mythical figure in science, but Sobel, she tries to get at the real Curie, the woman behind the legend.
And the article really hints at a life far more complex than any textbook would lead you to believe.
Oh, for sure. You can't just separate the science from the context, right? Like, here she is, born in 1867, Poland, loses her mother young.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then she ends up at the Sorbonne. Imagine being one of, 23? 23 women in the entire science faculty. The odds were stacked against her from the start.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. It makes her accomplishments even more impressive.
Right. So to really understand Curie, you got to understand that world she was navigating. And that's what this book, The Elements of Marie Curie, tries to do. It's not just about her, it's about all the women in her orbit.
It's like a whole network of brilliant minds all working together. The article mentioned how Sobel interweaves all these stories.
Yeah. It's almost like she's trying to create a more complete picture of the scientific world at that time. And it wasn't all sunshine and roses, let me tell you.
Definitely not. I mean, the dangers they face. We're talking about handling incredibly radioactive elements.
Right. And it's easy to forget that back then they didn't fully grasp the risks. This wasn't just theoretical research. They were handling these elements with their bare hands.
And the long-term effects.
Yeah.
We're talking cancer, radiation sickness. It's pretty harrowing when you think about it.
Absolutely. It really makes you question their dedication. They were risking their lives for the sake of scientific discovery.
It makes you think about the image we have of Curie, the one everyone knows. That somber figure, always dressed in black. Was there more to her?
I think that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The book, the article, they both leave you wanting to know more. Was she always serious, always focused on her work? Or did she have other passions, other sides to her personality?
It's like we only see a fraction of who she really was.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fascinating about digging deeper into these stories.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Trying to understand the full picture of Marie Curie, the scientist, the woman, the icon.
Exactly. And those missing pieces, those are often the most intriguing parts of the story. It's like trying to see beyond that black and white photo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of seeing different sides of things, the article mentions someone who really challenges our assumptions. Harriet Brooks.
Oh, Brooks, now there's a story.
Right. Canadian physicist, worked with Curie, but then went in a completely different direction.
Yeah, she ends up leaving research to get married, which back then was a huge deal.
Absolutely. It's easy to judge through a modern lens, but back then, for a woman in science, that was practically unheard of.
Totally. But here's the kicker. Years later, she pops up again, arguing that women are intellectually inferior, that their scientific work suffers because of it.
Wait, seriously? She worked with Curie, achieved amazing things, and then makes a 180 like that. It's almost unbelievable.
Right. And it gets worse. She even criticizes Curie's later work.
Oh, wow. Do we know how Curie reacted to that? I can only imagine how hurtful that must have been.
It's not entirely clear from the book if they ever spoke about it directly. The article doesn't go into detail about that period.
It's too bad. I'd love to know what Curie thought about it all.
Me too. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What caused such a drastic shift in Brooks's thinking?
Right. Was it genuine belief?
Hmm.
Or was she trying to justify her own choices, maybe even to herself?
Maybe. Or maybe she felt like she had to conform to societal expectations. It's a reminder of how different the world was for women in science back then.
Absolutely. And it sounds like Brooks wasn't alone. The article mentioned others who worked with Curie ended up gravitating towards her colleague, André Louis Debierne.
Yeah, so it touches on that. It makes you wonder about the dynamics in Curie's lab. Was it something about her personality, her leadership style?
It definitely adds another layer to the story, doesn't it? She wasn't just this solitary genius. She was navigating collaborations, personalities, just like anyone else in a demanding field.
Exactly. And those relationships, they can shape the course of scientific discovery, for better or worse. But amidst all this, let's not forget Curie's daughter, Irene. She went on to become a brilliant scientist in her own right. Won a Nobel Prize, too, just like her mother.
Can you imagine a mother-daughter duo winning Nobel
Right.
Prizes? That's incredible. What do you think it was like for them working together in the lab like that?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? You've got this incredible scientific mind shaping the field, and then there's her daughter following in her footsteps.
Did they ever butt heads, you think?
Hmm.
Or was it all smooth sailing, this perfect scientific partnership?
Oh, I'm sure there were disagreements, debates. That's part of science, right? Bouncing ideas off each other, challenging assumptions. It's just fascinating to think about it playing out between a mother and daughter with that added layer of personal history.
I'd love to know how Curie approached mentoring her own daughter. Was she stricter? More encouraging? Did she feel that pressure, having to live up to her own legacy while guiding Irene?
The article mentions that Sobel touches on their relationship, but like a lot of Curie's personal life, it seems like there's still so much we don't know, so many untold stories.
That seems to be a recurring theme, doesn't it? We put these historical figures on a pedestal, focus on their accomplishments, but forget they had lives outside of the lab.
Absolutely. Curie wasn't just a scientist. She was a mother, a mentor, a woman navigating a world that wasn't always welcoming. It's essential to remember those complexities, those human elements, when we talk about these iconic figures.
It makes you realize that history is never black and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's full of nuances, contradictions, and those are often the most interesting parts of the story.
Exactly. And I think this deep dive has done a great job of highlighting that complexity. We've peeled back the layers of the Marie Curie narrative, seen the struggles, the triumphs, the relationships that shaped her life and her work.
It's definitely given us a lot to think about. So as we wrap up, any final thoughts? What resonated most with you from all of this?
You know, it's that idea of legacy that really sticks with me. How do we reconcile the groundbreaking work of someone like Curie with the realities of her time, her personal struggles, even her flaws? It's a reminder that history is never simple.
It's a great point. As for me, I'm left thinking about all those other stories, the woman who worked alongside Curie, whose contributions often get overshadowed. It makes me want to dig deeper, uncover those hidden histories.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it? They spark our curiosity, encourage us to question, to explore, and to never stop learning.
Absolutely. So listeners, we want to hear from you. What surprised you about Marie Curie? What resonated with you most? Until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions.